Guys, very few people in the industry really understand this. And really, I think it's more about who they're after that we need to be thinking about. But I want to hear, Matthew, if you could just kind of give us the context. What are we talking about? Why is this important to us? And then I'm gonna drive some more questions for you to kind of go deeper on this.
Awesome. Sure thing. So I'll set a little bit of background context, and then we can riff about the practicalities or practical means, what this means to the industry. So just rewinding time a long way, and I won't spend a lot of time on this because, again, history can be fun, but it can be boring. So rewinding time back to 1991. This was the first, remember those of us who were, around doing things in 1991, I have the gray hair to prove it. There were landlines, which means a cord attached to your phone in your house. And there started to become a lot of telemarketing spam, if you can imagine it, way back in 1991, with marketers calling house phones and the phones ringing off the hook. And so the government kind of got involved, and there were a series of laws that the TCPA was built on, but they passed for the first time the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, which effectively the FCC now governs. But it was the first set of laws to try and govern how folks could reach out to you and control the ring on your home phone. And so this is what the TCPA, when we say TCPA, the roots go back even to a law back into the 20s, but 1991 is really the modern incantation of this. And then this has been adjusted and improved over the years. You might be familiar with the do not call list. If you're not, you need to be. Please be familiar with the do not call list in registry. But this has evolved gradually over time. And now, about two to 3 years ago, the FCC formed a working group because now we all carry this around in our pockets, right? And so, we carry this powerful device around, our phone in our pocket all the time. And if anyone living on planet Earth, probably realizes the text spam and the phone spam that you get all day long on your phone. This, of course, impacts the industry because it impacts the pickup rates, the answer rates for your prospective customers. And it's became a really big problem, as any kind of consumer, or like I say, human has. And so the FCC formed a working group around this TCPA, and they looked at the problem, and they found that a lot of these calls, and especially the frenzy of calls that some customers got in certain conditions, were caused by what they classify as lead generators or lead aggregators. Now, we already talked about the portals, right? So you mentioned Zillow, lots of other ones in every industry. Like, this is, by the way, the most profitable business model, this marketplace, multi-sided marketplace portal model in the history of the world, because this is how they work, right? They do a bunch of marketing. They pay for marketing, just like we're talking about here. They do a bunch of marketing. They get someone to come down to a landing page one or many times, and then they capture their lead information. And then they take that lead information and then they go sell it. And when they first started doing this, a decade ago, more now, I guess, they would sell it to one or two people that were really contextually relevant to the marketing, right? So if it was a mortgage rate website, they would sell to mortgage loan officers the lead. Well, like any savvy business people, they looked at it and they said, well, who else is interested in this mortgage lead? And I'm just picking on one industry. And they started selling it to other people. And so this one lead was like the thing you could sell over and over and over again. Imagine if you could sell the house to every bidder in a hot market at once, right? And so that's what they did. And so they made just immense amounts of money on this, selling the leads. And then that fueled their marketing budgets. So then they took a percentage, a lot of it as profit, but they took some of this percentage and they plowed it back into their marketing budgets, which went directly into Google and Meta and Facebook and Instagram and a lot of places online where you could generate leads out of, right? And so this is a machine that's been running for years and years. And I tell you that to tell you that is the biggest thing that the FCC is trying to crack down on with the new rules that they're putting in place that go into effect January 27th, is they're trying to, and I'll talk about the specifics or the most important things around this, but that's what they're really trying to crack down on, is this, it caused this speed to lead, this race condition that happened because this lead was being sold so many times, and you know this from being in the industry, all of a sudden everyone calls at once, texts at once, and if you're not first, you're probably pissing the customer off, right? And so this is the condition that they're trying to fix with these laws. But man, these laws have far-reaching consequences for every small and local business, including a real estate and mortgage for sure.
Okay, first of all, agree with everything you said. I love the context. I appreciate the background. And the question I think a lot of people are asking right now is, okay, what does this mean? What's going to happen to these lead aggregators? What are they not able to do now? And should we be shorting our Zillow and RDC stocks right now? Should we be going out there and shorting other portal stocks, or are they going to find ways to adjust this? And I'll share when at the appropriate time, I'll share how one of our lead sources, Leads Like Candy, some of you know it as ZBuyer, what they've done to adjust and adapt to this. But I mean, no matter how you slice it, Matthew, as I've looked at this, I think you're going to see some decline in profitability for some of these companies that are lead aggregators because they're not going to be able to sell this lead to 100 people anymore.
Yeah. So let's maybe leading into that, Michael, if you'll bear with me, I'll just talk about a couple of the key pieces of the rule, because I think it will help people understand the context. Now, these are big, smart businesses and business people. Like Zillow is not going away anytime soon, right? Like they're but I think when you hear what the main pieces, when your audience hears what the main pieces of this law will do, I think you'll understand like exactly what you've already figured out, which are there are going to be some pretty big changes to these marketplaces and portals from an economic perspective. So let me just lay out two things that are really important new components to this law. The first one is this law now requires one-to-one consent. So what that means is, and I'm going to quote from the actual law, the order technically to the TCPA. Clearly and conspicuously authorizes no more than one identified seller to make telemarketing calls, right? So what this means is that when I talked about the prior world where a portal will go out, do a bunch of marketing, come in, they sometimes have a bunch of people they could sell to on a fine print on a secondary page that no one ever looked at, but they would gather the lead and then they'd figure out what to do with it, right? Now, the FCC has been very specific. They actually they've used an example of a blank checkbox form with the names of the lead buyers that could buy that lead that are blank. And the think about this, like the marketing goes out, consumer comes in, comes to a lead form. Before any data is captured, any lead data is captured by anyone related to this, the consumer has to explicitly check who they want to contact them, right? And those are the only people that can be sold, the only businesses that can be sold the lead. That's what we mean by one-to-one consent. Now, the industry thinks that consumers, we don't know yet totally, right? But the industry thinks 1 to 3 leads, consumers will check, I want 1 to 3. Previously, this has been 8, 10, 12, 15 leads generated from that one contact. So there are a few things we think that will happen with that I can get into, but that's the first main thing here. And then I'll talk about a second when you're ready for me.
Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you, because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.